All right, let's begin. Hi everyone, welcome to the Achieve Club Initiative's webinar about resumes. First off, a little about me. My name is Sophie Greer. I use she, her pronouns. I am a sophomore at Bryn Mawr College and I'm a member of the Achieve Club Initiative. I tutor young people in the college application process and help with their resumes through the mentorship project and college essay offer. I was also recently part of a panel about college applications and college life, run by Athena by Women in STEM, or We STEM. Outside of school, I work for a polling company. First up, we have the purpose of a resume. Resumes are used to show potential employers that you'd be a good fit for their workplace. You want to show people what you've done and what you can do. You should include your career goals or a few sentences about who you are on your resume if you need to fill out space, but these things aren't needed. If you do include a summary, write it in first person, so say things like, I am. Here are some examples. Notice how these students state their current positions and goals. Oh, wait. A resume that looks boring or has an overwhelming amount of text or has text that is too small is likely to get passed over. Make sure your resume is visually appealing. Think about color scheme, text size and font, amount of text, layout of sections, and blank spaces. Blank spaces help balance out blocks of text on your resume and make the text more digestible. The text size should be between 10 and 12. And you can make it interesting to read by using a few different fonts, sizes, colors, and bolding, italics, and underlining. Write concisely. How can you say something in as few words as possible? Use bullet points when you can. Here are some sample resumes from Canva. You can find resume templates that look good, like these, in Word and Google Drive too. It's obvious that in these examples, Takahiro on the far left is applying for a social media position, and Tasha on the far right is applying for a position in computer science. However, it's fine if it's not totally obvious what you're applying for. This would be the case if you hadn't had a lot of experience in any particular area. For example, Kimberly here in the middle could be applying for any generic scholarship or lower level position. Here's an example of a bad resume. At first glance, it's overwhelming and boring. There's too much text, not enough white space, and all the text is the same size, color, and font. Now, Richard here has a good resume. The layout, colors, and text make it eye-catching and interesting to read. We'll post both these resumes and the other sample resumes in the caption of this video when we post this recording on YouTube. I will also send out all these sample resumes in our organization Slack. If there is no contact info on your resume, or if you do not answer someone's attempts to contact you, you sabotage yourself out of the job or award you applied for. So you want to be as accessible as possible. Include the phone number, email, and address you check most often. You can also include another email or phone number, your website, or your LinkedIn if you have them. This example includes 2 phone numbers, a mailing address, an email address, and a website. Your email address should be professional and can be as simple as just your first and last names or one of your first names with an initial, one of your names with just an initial. If you use an email address that has a swear word or is otherwise inappropriate, the potential employer or college won't take you seriously. Again, include the email address that you check most often. This one may seem a little obvious, but I want to go into some details anyway. Obviously, everyone knows to put their name on the resume. Include both your first and last names and your middle name if you want. Any nickname should be in quotes. Secondly, include a few words describing yourself and what you do, a shortened version of your full summary. These can be things like high school student, aspiring psychologist, or future filmmaker and youth activist. Each word should be capitalized. In the education section, you can include your high school and other classes or programs you've taken, for example, an online course or an educational program. This applicant include their high school and a summer coding program. For each entry, include the high school or program name, graduation year and location, and GPA if it is high enough. You can also include courses relevant to the position you're applying for, such as biology for a position in medicine. Also, employers like to see the applicants that are engaged with their communities, so you can list clubs too. Now you may be wondering what to do if your GPA is too low. Should you still include it? The answer is no. Only include your GPA if it's 3.5 or above. A high GPA shows a strong work ethic and tenacity, but it's totally fine if yours is lower. There are many other ways that you can appeal to potential employers and colleges and show them that you are a hard worker. For example, you can take hard classes, get lots of experience, and get involved in extracurriculars. Leadership in particular looks especially good. You can make work experience, intern experience, and volunteer experience one section or separate sections. It's up to you. For all positions, include start and end dates, the company name, your title, what you did, and if you want, the time commitment. Include the months if you can, especially for recent experience. Years alone are too vague. Again, you should write your responsibilities in bullet point form, like this person did, since paragraphs is too much text and are too overwhelming to read. And use third person with no pronouns. Write things like perform this or manage that, like in this example. So you use first person for your summary and third person for the experience section. You can pick and choose which experiences and activities you want to include on your resume, according to what is most relevant to the position you're applying for. You should personalize your resume for each position, so you'll have many resumes after a while. A great tip is to look at the job posting and copy and paste words directly from the posting into your resume. For example, if the word detail-oriented shows up in the posting a lot, you want to include that word in your skills section and include accomplishments that show you're detail-oriented. Another tip is to be specific by quantifying what you did with numbers. Also, you can tell people what you did by listing achievements. For example, if you worked in social media, you'd write something like increased Instagram following by 26%, because it's stronger than something like ran Instagram page. If you need help listing your achievements, ask yourself, how did I perform the job better than any others? What were the problems, or challenges I faced? How did I overcome them? How did the organization benefit from my performance? Did I receive any awards, recognition, or promotions as a result? Another tip is to show off on your resume. Your resume is all about you and what you can offer as an employee or intern or student, so don't be shy about bragging. Embellish your writing. For example, someone who works with the public could write, provided exemplary customer service instead of just helped customers. You should use action verbs to describe what you did. Action words include words such as amplified, enhanced, generated, integrated, streamlined, and navigated. For example, let's say you work well with members of the public. You could say enhanced customer satisfaction instead of something like customers liked me or made customers happy. Lastly, be cognizant of verb tenses. It may seem easy to use present tense for everything you do now and past tense for everything you used to do, but a lot of people are inconsistent. If you mix them up, it looks sloppy and confusing, so be sure to keep that in mind. You may be wondering what people think of your experiences. Well, any sort of experience, jobs, internships, programs, volunteer positions, shows that you've gained experience in and knowledge of a certain field. In addition, paid work shows that you're skilled enough to get payment, and volunteer work shows that you're engaged with your community and care about doing good. Both forms of experience look great on a resume. Skills fall into two categories: hard skills, which are quantifiable, and soft skills, which are subjective personality traits. You should include both on your resume. Hard skills include knowing how to use programs and techniques, such as Excel or event planning, and languages. Soft skills include things like art, in this example, or critical thinking. Like in the experience, like in the experience section, you should try to be specific and provide numbers and skill levels, such as proficient in Photoshop or 90 words per minute typing speed, like in the example here. You can use words like exposure to, proficient in, or experience with to say how good you are at certain skills. If you have many skills, you may choose to organize them into categories, such as administrative, social media, laboratory, computing, and the like. This person chose to use marketing and art categories. In the recognition section, you can include contests, scholarships, and awards you've won, articles written about you, and anything else that involves people recognizing your good work. Include the title of the honor and who gave it to you and the year. For example, you can include honor roll or a hackathon or winning a hackathon in this section. Here are some other tips. Your resume should be 1 page, 2 at most. Any longer and the person reading your resume loses interest. If you make art or write or have a certificate for a skill or class, you can showcase this by submitting your work or certificate along with your resume. This is not absolutely necessary, and it's totally fine if you don't do this, but it can't hurt. It may even hurt if you're applying for a position in art or writing. Some industries and companies and schools are impossible to get into unless you know someone on the inside, so use your network. Think about if you know anyone who works where you want to work, or if you know someone who works there. Reach out to them and explain why you're interested in the position and why you'd be a good fit, and if they'd be willing to put in a good word for you about you to the hiring manager or supervisor. Now let's discuss common mistakes people make on their resumes. A lot of people make mistakes with spelling, grammar, or punctuation, and that's a surefire way to get rejected. It looks sloppy, so be sure to proofread your resume before sending it off. Along the same lines, being inconsistent looks sloppy as well, so be sure to use the same bullet points throughout and the same font for each part of your resume. For example, the same font for all headings. Also, having a summary that is too generic or vague, such as student looking for work experience, is a bad idea. Do not lie or stretch the truth. Do not lie or stretch the truth even a little bit. You should be able to back up everything on your resume with proof. And you can leave out references available upon request, since this is implied and people know to contact you if they want to see your references. Also, some people might tell you to include a photo of yourself on your resume, but this is outdated advice. Including a photo of yourself may actually hurt your chances of being hired or accepted, since that's unnecessary and documents with photos don't pass through most online application portals. Lastly, you should not include irrelevant information on your resume. This means information that is not relevant to what you're applying for and information that just doesn't belong on a resume at all, such as activities that are not active. For instance, you would not write that you attended a protest, but if you have organized one or spoke at one, you can include that because those things are more active. You may be wondering what you should do if you haven't had a job, internship, or volunteer position. Don't worry about it. Not everyone gets work, volunteer, or internship experience in high school, and that's fine, or college. The trick is to include other forms of experience on your resume, such as clubs you're a member of and other extracurriculars you've participated in, such as competitions. Everyone has skills, even if they haven't had formal work experience. So think about what skills you have and how you develop them, for example, through starting a club. Then you might be able to include those activities in the experience section. Now let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is basically a social media for professionals, and you can find employers and people looking for jobs there. This free platform is used for networking and finding opportunities. If you're signed in and you look at someone else's profile, LinkedIn shows you if you know any of the same people like other social media platforms do. You should not accept friend requests, also called invitations, from people you don't know or don't have any mutual connections with. Let's compare your LinkedIn account and your resume. As stated, you should use first person for the summary if you have one, and third person for the experience sections on your resume. And this rule applies to your LinkedIn as well. They have many of the same sections: skills, education, experience, and recognition. Both are, of course, for people looking for professional opportunities and will be seen by potential employers. They'll have a lot of the same information, but your LinkedIn is a bit different, as you'll see. Your resume should be formal and is, of course, a document, so you can't interact with people unless you send it to them. As stated, you should tailor your resume to what you're applying to and should not have a photo of yourself or any other images. Lastly, you can only quantify your skills with words like skilled in and exposure to. Your LinkedIn, on the other hand, is more informal. Like on other social media platforms, you can interact with people by liking and commenting on their posts. LinkedIn also allows people who know you to endorse your skills and basically leave a note that says you're good at something on your profile. Your account should have all or most of what you've done, or you should keep it or you could keep it relevant, like with your resume. That's your choice. In addition to skill endorsements, you can take short quizzes in things like Java or Microsoft Word. If you pass, LinkedIn will put it on your profile. Lastly, unlike on your resume, you certainly should have a photo of yourself on your LinkedIn account. Statistics have shown that accounts with photos get more attention from people. And yes, you should have both a resume and LinkedIn account. This is almost the end of the presentation. Just hang on for a few more minutes and I'll answer your questions. Now that you have a beautiful resume and a LinkedIn profile, it's time to use them. In addition to cold calling and cold emailing places and Googling places and using your connections, you can use a college fair or career fair to find and get noticed by institutions. Fairs are online now because of the pandemic, so location is not a problem, so you can attend basically any fair anywhere. These fairs are offered by organizations like the National Association for College Admission Counseling and the National Society of High School Scholars. I can also supply more organizations for college students later. Before you attend a career or college fair, you should be ready with your resume and a short pitch about yourself and what you're looking for. Look over your resume beforehand so you know what to highlight when talking to recruiters. Many fairs post the names of the institutions that will attend online, so it's a good idea to look at that list and see which places interest you. Research those places beforehand and prepare good questions to ask to show interest. These should be questions that can't be answered with a simple Google search. If they don't let you give out your resume at the fair itself, ask institutions if you can email them your resume afterwards. That concludes the presentation. Thank you so much for listening. Are there any questions?
All right, so I will be reading the questions in the chat first from our live participants, and then I'll also be asking some questions that I've just heard generally that a lot of people will have. So we have a question from Melinda, and she asked, how do you demonstrate your interest in a company or internship position?
So you can, like before, you mean before the interview, or like when you're about to send them your resume, or after you've already heard back from them and they've called you in for an interview?
Before.
You should email them and say, like, I'm interested in your company, this is why, and explain, give a short statement about your relevant experience and attach your resume.
Awesome. If you have more questions from live people, just put it in the chat. In the meantime, I'll be asking some questions that I've just heard generally about resumes. So my first question is, what do you think is the difference between a resume and a CV? And do you need both, or should you need one of them? What kind of person will need each type?
So a CV is more for people who are like professionals, like who've already graduated like college or and are well established. So I don't think you need to worry about CVs right now. And CVs are for mainly like just a list of your publications and awards. So those are for people who have had like many publications. So a resume is more has more skills and list of experiences and some recognition, but also like awards. So a resume is sort of everything. A CV is just publications and awards.
Awesome. And what do you think is the best format to organize a resume, chronologically or by skill or function?
I think either one works. It's a personal choice.
Okay, and do you think people should include experience or skills or prior jobs that don't relate to whatever position they're seeking?
No, you should keep it relevant.
Okay, and do you think these people should include personal information like interests and hobbies on their resume?
If you need to fill up space, you can include that, but otherwise you don't need it.
And if people would like to get their resumes edited or anything, what kind of people should they go to for help?
I think most schools have a career center that you can ask, or you can ask like a friend, maybe.
Awesome. And we have another question in our chat from a live participant. It's how many activities or experiences should you include? Do you think more than 5 activities would be too much or unnecessary?
I mean, it depends how much other stuff you want to include. If including all 5 of those activities will put you over 2 pages, then you should cut something out. But if you need to fill up space, then including all those activities is fine.
Yeah, and for resumes specifically for colleges, if colleges do accept them, do you still think it's a good idea to put your high school GPA on such resumes when it'll already show up on your application? And that goes for like standardized testing scores as well. Like, do you want the overlap, or should you kind of only include some of your more nuanced background stuff, like your experiences and such?
I think the overlap is fine, but I don't think you should. I mean, if you could include standardized testing scores if you really wanted to, but that's not really like people in the working world don't really include the standardized testing scores on their resumes. So it's fine to not include that if that's what you choose.
Okay, and why would I still need a resume if I already have a LinkedIn profile? Why is it a bad idea to just direct your employer to a LinkedIn profile?
Not all employers are on LinkedIn, and also sometimes they might want to see just the stuff that you think is relevant, just the stuff that you think is important for the position.
Awesome. And do you think it's a good idea to put volunteer experience on resumes, or is it just like job experience and like professional experience?
No, you should definitely put volunteer experience on your resume. It looks really good.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions that I've prepared so far. If people have further questions, please email us at achieveclubinitiative@gmail.com. We'd be happy to answer any questions or direct any further questions to Sophie. And Sophie, thank you so much for presenting. It was really helpful. And I'm sure that people on YouTube and Instagram will also enjoy watching it. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, please follow our Instagram or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And yeah, thank you for everyone for listening. And thank you so much, Sophie, for presenting. I'll end the recording here.